welcome to the Gloucester Unitarian Universalist Church and our last Zoom service of the summer. I am Jeremy Melvin, a member of the congregation, and I'm pleased to be leading this morning's service with three other congregants, Michelle Brown, Pat Johnson, and Carrie Mullen. Ours is a historic congregation and a historic faith with a progressive message that we are born of one great love, and to that love we all return. We are bound by our covenant and not by a creed. We commit to walking together on a journey devoted to spiritual exploration and growth, social justice and transformation, and care of our community and the natural world. You are welcome here, whatever your background, your age, your income, your abilities. And I'd especially like to welcome any visitors with us this morning. If you'd like to learn more about us or make sure you receive the weekly newsletter with invitations to Zoom services and other events, please contact the church office at info, I-N-F-O, at gloucesteruu.org. And we will be recording this morning's service so it can be available later to others, but your faces will not appear in the recording unless you're one of the actual participants. So, but if you wish, you may shut off your video to make sure that there's no mistake and you are accidentally recorded, although that won't happen, trust me. And before we begin, there's a reminder to have a chalice or candle to light so that we may all light our flames together during the service. And also, please keep your microphones off until we greet one another at the end of the service. And there are several announcements today, since it's September and we're back to business. The first announcement is about an upcoming small group that will be forming. You can renew your relationship on the topic of racism. The small group Racial Justice Ministry will begin on September 22nd and will run for 6 weeks, every Tuesday from 7:30 to 9 via Zoom, and it will be co-facilitated by Carol Bousquet and Kate Ruzecki. There are presently only 2 seats left, so if you're interested, be sure to register as soon as possible. And you can do that by emailing Carol at clbousquet, clbousquet @gmail.com. And I believe this is also in the weekly newsletter, so if you didn't catch my spelling of her name, you can look for it there. A materials, reading lists, and the Zoom link will be provided after all registrations are confirmed. And there are 2 books designated as recommended reading prior to the meeting. White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo and How to Be a Non-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. And participants are encouraged to start them before the class convenes. And of course, non-participants are also encouraged to read these 2 books so that we can create a larger dialogue among church members on the topic while using the same references. Now, next Thursday, September 10th, at any time from 10 to noon, you're invited to join Reverend Janet on the LA to add water to our communal bowl. Since our usual in-gathering ceremony of mingling our waters won't be able to happen in person, this will be an opportunity to do it virtually. So please come and please spend a moment thinking about either what the water that you bring with you symbolizes for you this year, or what the church community means to you right now. And it would be wonderful to come together in a safe way like this, even if we can't do it on Sunday morning, to create meaning and ritual together. And this gathering of the waters on Thursday will be filmed, and then that film will be used as part of the service next Sunday. So again, if you're able to make it next Thursday, September 10th, anytime from 10 a.m. to noon, you can visit Reverend Janet on the LA and bring your water with you. As a final announcement, starting on September 27th, we hope that's the plan right now, we will begin the next development of our online services. They will no longer be done on Zoom, but will be broadcast live from the sanctuary over YouTube. And so you'll be able to access them in the same way. The weekly newsletter will include a link to the week's service, or you can subscribe to the church's YouTube channel and simply go there every Sunday at 10. And our online coffee hour will continue to be held on Zoom following the service, and it will be very easy to access from a link on the YouTube page. And more information will be coming out in the next couple weeks about how to do this so that everyone is familiar with the process, but it will be very, very simple. And we hope it will really enhance our virtual Sunday morning worship experience. And so we're very excited to start this new chapter in our congregational life. But now let us take a moment to deepen our hearts and our spirits for worship. Let us settle in where we are, separated physically, but bound together spiritually. Let us take a moment to appreciate what we have, think about where we would like to go, and give thanks for where we have come from and those who have helped bring us to this moment. Our opening hymn this morning is Bring Me Back.
So like a ship lost out to sea, sliding far away from me. So like a ship that's run aground, grinding over sand, lost but also found. Please bring me back, please bring me back to myself. Please bring me back, please bring me back to myself. A kitten in a well, paddling for my life, sorry that I fell. If I go still and at the end, pour it on my head, make me rise again. Please bring me back, please bring me back to myself. Please bring me back, please bring me back to myself. I am not afraid of a change. Though it might sound strange, I am not afraid. Please bring me back, please bring me back to myself. Please bring me back, please bring me back to myself. Na, 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 na. Bring me back to myself. Bring me back to
As we do every Sunday when we gather in our sanctuary, we open our service today by lighting our chalice. Today we will all join together to light our own chalices and candles from wherever we are. And by doing this, we symbolize that though we may be temporarily apart in body, we are together in spirit. And if you've prepared a candle at home, please take a moment now to light it as I light mine. And when it is lit, If you can hold it up to the camera for a moment so we can all share in each other's flames. And I invite you now, when you're ready, to say together the words of our congregation's affirmation. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and mysteries of this great gift.
Hi, Michelle Brown here from Atlanta. These past months, I, with my Gloucester family, Jeff Henderson and Pat Johnson, have been consumed with varying notions regarding renewal, most likely why Pat corralled me this week. A newly minted empty nester and newly retired high school English teacher, I spend time missing my children, students, colleagues, and balancing the delicate web of work versus home. Yet with this September, my world is open in a way it wasn't before. In recent years, my spirituality has been tossed aside like an old beloved cardigan, only to be worn in a rare moment of stress or silence or sadness. With COVID isolation, our nation's unrest, and my newfound freedom in tow, it's come knocking heartily with a "Hey, what's up these days?" The poet William Wordsworth divides our lifetimes into three terms: that which was, which is, and which will be. I like to think we live folded within each simultaneously. Like his famous daffodils seen 10,000 at a glance, they stay with him long after he's witnessed their beauty. They have the power later to flash upon his inward mind and offer him understanding, pleasure, and comfort. This experience of past informing present, presing setting up future, speaks to me in my quest for spiritual renewal. So first, that which was. I grew up Jewish in southern Louisiana, the only Jewish girl in my grade through high school. Where do you go to church? The kids asked. B'nai Israel. In first grade, public school, I came home with a homemade holiday card exclaiming, "Jesus loves me so, love Michelle Schwartz." My teachers cast me as an expert whenever Jewish holidays came to pass. What do the Jews believe, Michelle? Many erroneously imagined my religion centered around not believing in something they did. Somewhat dismal not having a Christmas tree or Easter baskets, there were nevertheless plenty of festivals and moments to celebrate. I grew up in a rich cultural stew as a French learning Louisianian, a Hebrew learning Jew, and an English learning plain old American, just one spouting shalom y'all here and there. Searching for answers in my multi-denominational world was both confounding and entertaining. My rabbi admonished us to believe in only one God, recall and honor the many persecutions of our people, and marry another Jew so we wouldn't disappear. He never said much about Jesus, though he loomed large in my world. Numerous Catholic friends taught me the beauty of religious pageantry, along with awkward moments of taking communion with them and wondering if I'd spontaneously combust or if the priest would somehow know I was really Jewish. My first best friend was a Mormon, so I announced to my family I'd like to be a Norman too, if they wouldn't mind. Another convinced me to become a Presbyterian so I could hang out with her on Sundays. Later, as teens, we simply went to whoever's youth group had the best Saturday night program. In high school, a friend I'd known my entire life asked another friend if she tried to convert me so I wouldn't go to hell. I won't lie, that shook me. Though outside of missing Hebrew, services across my friends' religions were eerily similar, especially the final benedictions. I'd wonder why, when there's so much to unite, do we separate, each married to our notion of how the universe works? My innate spirituality involves a passion for equality, reverence for language, both words and images, the beauty of nature, a love for animals, and our duty to protect it all. Otherwise, I've mostly just gone through the motions and rituals of any organized aspects of religion. I long to understand how the world is more than mere sensory experience in a more diverse, vision-centered, rather than creed-centered way. I wouldn't learn about universal Unitarianism, though, until I was in my 40s. A colleague described her UU church. I was intrigued, but stuck on the word church. She described many faiths being called upon to explain the world, to offer both sanctuary and action, but not dogma. Sounded too good to be true to me, and I was sure they'd try to convert me to something. Second, the now, that which is. My most recent school was built in front of a UU congregation, surely a sign. I passed it for 4 years, imagining I'd stop by to check it out, but feeling I'd be cheating on my Judaism. Maybe I could just engage in their social action endeavors, not their religious services, but I didn't. Visiting Pat and Jeff in early March this year, when murmurings of this coronavirus thing were new, I was able to gather hugs and laughs without a Zoom filter. On a chilly Sunday, Jeff and I met Pat for breakfast at Zeke's. She had attended one of your last in-person services. The program included a poem rather than a religious text. The order of service and topics also struck a deep chord. Her explanation of the 7 principles sounded suspiciously like my own inner beliefs. Next time I visit, I mused, I'd love to go. That promised visit arrived much sooner through my laptop, now a 10 a.m. staple of my COVID Sundays, for which I thank you all. We each have our looking forwards to post-COVID. Mine is sitting with Jeff and Pat in your beautiful historic building, seeing all of you and shaking some hands. With my Gloucester connection, I'm learning the UUs might be more than just a way to engage with a more diverse group in social causes dear to me. It renews my teeny spark that enjoys communal spirituality and ignites an awareness that we are free agents of our lives, not bound by our circumstances. We renew things like our driver's license, prescriptions, subscriptions, even wedding vows. We meaning again and again, new, create something unique. I'm renewing my spiritual driver's license of sorts. I am a questioning Jew, mustering my courage to examine traditions and rituals. I'm also an aspiring universal Unitarian who has completed 4 of the 8 UU Inquirers classes at a nearby congregation here in Atlanta. I am renewing my spirituality by expanding it. That which was, which is, and hopefully will be are all tied together.
When we are together, we would normally take up a collection at this time during our service. And people have been asking how to make their pledge payments and other gifts during this time. And we ask that you mail your contributions to the church at 10 Church Street in Gloucester. And as always, we're very grateful for all of your contributions. Our reading this morning is the poem that Del referenced in what she just shared with us. And the delightful thing is that I chose this poem and she included it in her talk without any coordination. We just discovered shortly before the service began that we had chosen the same piece. So again, the poem is I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside a lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such jocund company, I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I want to thank Michelle especially. It takes a lot of courage to walk into a congregation like this and share like that. It was a wonderful, wonderful reflection. Thank you very much. For me, the new year has always begun after Labor Day. I calculate that of my 66 years, subtracting the first 4 and allowing for 5 years between 1980 and 85 when I was in the real world having children, I've spent 57 in the academic cycle, September to June. I remember my first day of kindergarten in 1959 almost as clearly as the start of my last fall semester of university teaching in September of 2018. I grew up in semi-rural central New Jersey. In our family, the end of August was capped by the Hunterdon County Agricultural Fair. While my father ran the press office, we kids ran wild for 4 days of gorging on cotton candy, staring at exotic, huge farm animals, and daring each other to try the Ferris wheel or talk to one of the carnies. With the packing up of the Flemington Fairgrounds, which is now a massive Walmart, by the way, summer was truly over, and even a 10-year-old was looking forward to something new. A new classroom, a new teacher, mean, nice, new friends, and if inclined that way, new intellectual challenges. Maybe this year you could become the new you. Maybe this year you can make new friends and ditch the old ones that got you in trouble last year. Maybe you'll shine in some new subject or other, make your parents proud. Maybe you'll find something you really love. Hope springs eternal, and the potential feels infinite. The excitement grew around back to school shopping. New shoes, new pens, new pencils, maybe a new lunchbox, haircuts all around. It peaked with the neighborhood parade of children on the Tuesday morning after Labor Day. The younger ones headed south toward Main Street and the grammar and middle schools, while their elder siblings swaggered west on Broad Street toward the high school out on the highway. The sigh of mothers across town was almost audible as their houses emptied of kids for another school year. In college and graduate school, I'd like to say that the sense of excitement in August grew from a higher motivation, the thrill of learning again after a long summer break. But honestly, the emotion was basically the same. Something new and unexpected could happen in September. It's not clear that shopping for textbooks and a new moleskin planner is fundamentally different from the childhood trips to the shoe store and the barber shop. I still love buying pens and planners. But the shopping is just a simple ritual, steeped in hopefulness about the new year, its potential for the renewal of the self, the possibility of that new you. I have sometimes wondered if part of my desire to live the academic life as a university professor was related to my experience of this fall transition, the moment of quickened hope in September that real transformation and renewal is possible every Tuesday after Labor Day. For a professor, September means classes to prepare for and teach, fresh new undergraduate faces, new challenges in higher education, especially this year, new questions to consider. While the spring term also brings new faces and new classes, it's not the same. In the fall, the days grow shorter and life turns more serious, more contemplative as we move indoors toward winter. Spring is a renewal of the earth, with lengthening days looking out of doors, away from the self, and towards summer and the natural world. Spring is also tinged with hope, but it's focused on the renewal of the planet around us rather than the self. So, I experience autumn as a time for renewal of the self, indoors, within, a turning away from the distraction of the carefree days of an outdoor summer, even though carefree childhood summers are really just a distant memory now. Autumn is, in the words of the poet James Bertolino, time now to wind down to a small setting. For me, it's a time to ask, if change were possible, what would it be? What would you want it to be? How could you bring it about? It is this hope for the possibility of personal transformation and renewal of a kind of clean slate that makes every September the beginning of my new year. I'm going to use Emily Dickinson to make my point a little more strenuously, emphatically. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Hope rises. Thank you.
I invite you now to join me in a time of prayer and meditation. And maybe pray for my internet connection. And if our prayers aren't efficacious, just remain meditative until Pat begins the next hymn. Take a moment and quiet your mind and open your heart. The days are changing. The heat has passed and the night stays a little longer. And when it goes, it leaves us with a fresh, clean morning, carrying on it hints of apples and sweaters, notebooks and bright maple leaves. It is a familiar time, the experience of it etched into us since childhood. And yet this time is so different. Where were the Labor Day picnics? Where are the children at the bus stop? Where are the friends we usually see in the summer or greet once again in the fall? But this time is no different. Every year is its own. Every returning season is a new experience. The patterns of the earth knit together our lives, providing connecting bonds between the constantly changing course of existence. And so let us remember that this time is no different because it is different. Life is ever moving and changing because that is what life is. That is what living things do. So let us at this time give thanks for those bonds that anchor and support us in the face of this changingness. Our bonds to the earth, our bonds to our families and those we love, our bonds to each other as members of this community, bonds that are just as strong in the air of our sanctuary as across our linked screens. And let us remember this morning particularly Charlotte Andrews, who passed away this past week, and her wife, Susan Nicholson, and their family and loved ones. And let us also work to extend these bonds of love, support, and joy out into the world around us, through prayer offered up, through words spoken one to another, and by acts of justice grace, and love done to all. Amen. And now our second hymn, Wake Now My Senses.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone. Thank you, Pat and Michelle. Just beautiful. I'd like to thank Jeremy for asking me to speak on the theme of renewal this morning. I too will share about grace and renewal in my own life recently. I, like many, have felt such a range of conflicting emotions over the last several months that it has often felt like navigating a raging river. I being the raging river. So recently, I'm going to be very honest, I behaved very badly on Facebook. My righteous indignation, which I should say always appeals to my lesser nature, got the better of me. Initially, I felt the adrenaline rush of the inflated ego and the superior intellect, and I rode that high until I crashed and burned in the wreckage of my own nagging conscience, forfeited credibility, and worst of all, damaged friendships and hurt family members. I have the capacity, not just them, to be the great dehumanizer. I reduced people to caricatures. I saw them in only 2 dimensions, and that did damage. I suffered immensely. I was empty and hard and miserable, and I was brought to my knees. And on my knees, I asked for help. And I was asked the question, what do you truly believe? I believe that we are all one body in creation. I am not only my brother's keeper, but I am in essence my brother. I believe in the interdependent web of all existence of which I am a part. There is no us versus them. And I do believe in good guys and bad guys, and right and wrong. And with these, I struggle the most in the world. But also, I struggle with these things within myself. And grace makes its way. I contact the friends and family that I offended and I say that I am sorry for my demeaning and degrading remarks. My heart unclenches and opens like a flower, reaching towards them. They are no longer monsters, but fully human and my beloved. And thus comes the renewal of my soul. There are many definitions of renewal, but the two that spoke to me in light of this story are: one, to resume to a particular state after an interruption, and two, to replace or repair something that is worn out. I'd like to leave you with these words of wisdom by educator, civil rights activist, stateswoman, and humanitarian Mary McLeod Bethune, called "I Leave You Love." And I'll just say that interaction on Facebook was related to Black Lives Matter, and I was very passionate about my commitment to the Black Lives Matter movement. So these words are from Mary, and this is the kind of wisdom that I am so grateful that I can access in my life on a daily basis. Love builds. It is positive and helpful. It is more beneficial than hate. Injuries quickly forgotten quickly pass away. Personally and racially, our enemies must be forgiven. Our aim must be to create a world of fellowship and justice where no man's skin, color, or religion is held against him. Love thy neighbor is a precept which could transform the world if it were universally practiced. It connotes brotherhood, and to me, brotherhood of man is the noblest concept in all human relations. Loving your neighbor means being interracial, interreligious, and international. Thank you, my fellow congregants, for listening.
Thank you, Carrie. And thank you also, Pat, for participating in the service and pulling all the levers backstage this morning, and to Michelle for being very brave and jumping in and participating with us as well. And now I invite everyone to join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalices. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Come, take my hand. I understand it's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. Love it will live when we can give. It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. Peace it will come when we are one. It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new